wording of it, but could you explain to us what your experience working with unions is?
Yes. I've been working, of course, the last 4 years as superintendent of Central Lake, working with our teachers union there. We have had some challenging financial times, as many districts. We have negotiated 3 one-year agreements in succession, 1 year after the next, just because of the unknowns with, as small as we are and our enrollment as small as it is, a couple of students up or down either way can really make a significant difference. So we work collaboratively and closely with one another. They recognize that, that my goal is, once we have that foundation, that stability in place, that we'll be able to talk about longer agreements. We'll be able to entertain things like raises, step and late increases, and those things that everyone wants to talk about. The bottom line is cost of living hasn't gone down, and those challenges remain. So my experience in the last 4 years has been working with that teachers union. My experience when I was at Saline, of course, we had multiple unions that we worked with, and as the building principal there with 104 teachers in the school, I was part of those negotiation processes, not only with the teachers group, but with the support staff as well.
I have a few follow-up questions. When you talked about hiring a new assistant superintendent for curriculum, you said you would be looking for a complementary skill set. What skill set qualifications would that be? What are your strengths, and what would you be looking to complement your strengths?
I tell you, one of my strengths is curriculum. So, while curriculum, an assistant superintendent who's strong in curriculum would be fantastic. We could really build on some synergy there. I would also be looking for someone who had a real financial sense about them. Not that that's not a strength of mine, but I have spent my entire educational career focusing on improving student achievement. And so somebody who has that local piece, who is a strong practitioner here in the community, who understands some of our fiscal challenges, that would be important to me, and really can have that synergy with me with instructional growth.
And then you also mentioned question 9 about right-sizing the district, and you said that one of the things that you would do would be to attract new students and offer innovative programs. How have you done that in your current district, and how do you think you would start that process here?
In my current district, one of the things we recently did is we partnered with Northern Michigan Community College to open up a CAD lab on campus. Being a small district, there was no way we were going to get CAD, AutoCAD, or a drafting teacher in the building. We only have 109 students in high school. And so working with the college and working with the Little Traverse Bay Band of Odawa Native Americans, we were able to get some grant funding. The mobile lab cost over $500,000 that the college and the tribe underwrote for us. And the mobile lab comes to us. So it's a 46-foot trailer, it's a CNC mill and lathe machine, and truly a mobile classroom. And so it comes to us, and then it goes another day to a couple other districts nearby us to provide that piece. And so we run an in-house drafting program, and then we articulate 1 day a week into the mobile lab for the CNC mill and lathe piece, where we can have the students work with what they programmed and then get that real hands-on programming experience. We're fortunate up north that we do have quite a few companies that have really begun to grow economically. Precision Edge, Bayshore Steel, East Jordan Iron Works. They're hiring at great wages folks who have CAD, CAM programming and milling and lathing experience. So we felt it was really important for us to bring that to our school. We've also worked with other districts to get our health OC program going. When I arrived, we did not, health occupations. We did not have a career tech ed program in health occupations or medical terminology. So partnering with the ISD, we were able to hire a part-time teacher, and now we're working with a neighboring district to continue that. They've just hired, ours retired, and they've just hired a part-time nurse, and so we're going to build that bridge there. One of the things you do when you're small is you have to reach out and find those regional partners, those local partners, whether it's business, whether it's industry, whether it's the community college, whether it's a combination of all, whether it's private investment. And just because you're a larger district doesn't mean you can't do those things as well. One of the things I've noticed driving around is there is a wealth of industry around here. And the good news is I've seen some new buildings going up on North Line. It's clear that that there's some things coming in. So rather than just businesses that have stagnated, finally, the economy is beginning to turn around. So I think those opportunities are there, to build regardless of the size of the district.
And then one more quick statement as a follow-up. The last time a facility bond was passed in this district was 1967,
Oh, wow.
and we do not have a current sinking fund.
Okay. Challenge, for sure. That's a big opportunity.
So, a question from the audience. I noticed that you identified many stakeholders in your presentation. However, I did not notice how you would and when you would meet with parents in this community.
Thank you, that's a good question. Making the assumption that my arrival is going to be essentially at the end of the year, the parent group meetings would be something that would be challenging to do in the summer, but not impossible. Most PTOs don't meet over the summer. So if I'm able to be here enough before the end of the school year so that those groups are still around, then definitely I can hit the ground running there. But looking at that first 90 days, probably that's going to wait until late August, September, when those groups get going again, whether they be parent, PTO, PTA, or boosters clubs, or what have you. So.
I have a question from the audience as well. Ben, in your initial interview, you discussed making sure instruction was not impacted when making budget cuts. You mentioned cutting your athletic director in your district to save money. In our district, much deeper cuts than this will need to be made. Give an example of a deep budget cut that would have little to no impact on instruction. Also give an example of a deep budget cut that would have an impact on instruction.
Well, a deep one that hopefully would have little to no impact on instruction could be something like a building closure. Oftentimes, if there's capacity in the surrounding schools, you can achieve some significant financial savings without incurring a real measurable negative instructional impact. Of course, there's always turmoil and there's always a little upheaval, and that's something that has to be carefully analyzed and messaged if that's something that needs to take place. But doing something like that, you keep the teachers in front of the students are in the classroom, and you have quality teaching and learning taking place. Obviously, a major cut that would seriously and negatively impact instruction would be cutting teachers, cutting teacher assistants, cutting support staff, cutting deans of students, cutting assistant principals. Those are cuts that while they may save money, the amount of problems they create are almost immeasurable, and you start backsliding instruction.
Other than attracting new students, how do you plan to retain the students that we have?
By building on the programs that we have and making sure that we're listening to the students. Oftentimes, the students are forgotten when we're looking at talking to the parents, we're talking to teachers, we're talking amongst ourselves as adults, and if we're not talking to our students about what would they like to see us offer, what are things that we do have but they would like to see more of, I think that's a key piece for us to build and improve. Students they're our customers, and they're why we're here every day. And if we're not doing our level best to make sure that the programs we have for them are the very best, then we're really missing an opportunity. And so I think that's a great conversation for teachers, for guidance counselors, for building principals. It's a great conversation for me to have, working with groups like Superintendent Student Advisory Council, Superintendent Teacher Advisory Council, setting up those groups that I can have that direct face-to-face with to make sure I'm hearing those messages as well.
Okay, that and zero tolerance, do you agree or disagree?
I disagree with zero tolerance on a basic premise because I honestly believe, and this, I'll say it twice because it sounds weird the first time, the most unequal treatment is the equal treatment of unequals. Again, the most unequal treatment is the equal treatment of unequals. If you blanket apply something without looking at variables, you oftentimes cause a lot of problems. And so while I do believe in policy and procedure and having a firm code of conduct, I also believe in looking at the entire story and making sure we're not being so blindly relying on a zero tolerance policy that it creates more problems than it tries to solve.
right? Bear with me on this. Being pushed out leads to dropping out. What changes can you make to ensure quality in facilities and staff and student success?
Being pushed out does lead to dropping out. And I think what you have to do, again, going back to listening to the students, is find areas where students, or programs in which students are feeling marginalized. And then take a really close look at, okay, what do we do about that? If we have identified the problem, and students are a key piece to identifying that problem, we look at making sure we have all of the fabrics and the networks in place to provide those safe havens and those safety nets, not only to recapture students that may have already left, but to make sure we don't lose students that we currently do have. And that starts right in the K-12 program, but it's also a really creative and flexible virtual learning academy, or a creative and flexible alt-ed program, or alt-ed adult ed program. So I think you have to really make sure that your ears are open when working with those entities. And again, it goes back to have you actually asked the question and then listened to the answer?